The case of a doctor named Marina Novikova is striking in its unusualness. She managed to survive the experience of the afterlife and return with a stunning revelation. It turns out that ideas about what happens after life are far from the truth. It all began in 1999 when Marina and her husband went to Chile. There they intended to spend time kayaking down the wild rivers. A week of vacation passed, and Marina decided to take a risk and go down a dangerous section of the river. Her husband did not support her, staying at the hotel. This section of the river was famous for its waterfalls. Once on top of one of them, Marina noticed a powerful whirlpool ahead. The current was so strong that the boat fell into the funnel, and suddenly tons of water covered it. The girl found herself under a seething surface that squeezed her so hard that she was immediately pressed to the bottom. She couldn't even move her hand to try to get out. At that moment, Marina started doing the most she could do: pray. She asked with all her heart for everything to work out the way God wanted. Suddenly, she felt a strange calm and support. It seemed like someone was telling her that everything would end well. Marina remembers that she didn't even try to breathe, realizing that she had been underwater for too long. At the same time, she felt alive, like never before. Then Maria's soul seemed to rise up, and she saw the river from above. After that, a group opened up before her. The heavenly beings were happy to meet Marina Novikova and could now enjoy time with her. Marina was also happy to see them, feeling familiar and deeply connected. She had previously felt that these beings knew her and loved her. According to Marina, they were her departed close relatives. They led her along a magical path that glowed with a soft light in front of her. A dazzlingly beautiful space opened up before her, where the sky shimmered with golden hues, and the air was filled with the scents of flowers that she had never seen on earth. Wonderful melodies rang out everywhere, touching her to the depths of her soul. It seemed that nature itself came to life here, and every petal, every drop of light sang praises to the Creator, together with the glowing inhabitants of this world. Marina approached the magnificent building. It was also enveloped in gentle light, radiating all-encompassing love. A warm feeling of home enveloped her. Then she decided to ask, "Marina, is this paradise?" A deep and gentle voice, like a spring wind, sounded in response. An angel appeared before her, his face glowing with kindness, and huge snow-white wings spread behind his back. Marina trembled, not believing her eyes, and asked how she got here, because she had never been perfect. The angel replied that, like most people, she was far from being completely pure of soul, but she always sought the truth and lived with kindness in her heart. Today she was given the opportunity to see heaven, to strengthen her faith, and share this miracle with others. Marina felt how lightness filled her soul, and followed the angel who led her further. She walked further across the endless plains, strewn with flowers of every shade of the rainbow, and saw trees whose leaves seemed to emanate an inner glow. Each tree had its own unique beauty, exuding feelings of peace and unity. Along the way, she-people met. These were souls who had achieved eternal peace. They greeted her joyfully and shared their stories about how they had come to this magical place. Among them was a woman who suddenly came up to Marina and hugged her. Grandma said in amazement, "Marina, but you died when I was still a child." "Yes, my dear," Grandma answered, her eyes shining with happiness. "We live here in eternal joy. I have always been close, praying for you and watching your achievements." Marina could not hold back tears of gratitude, her heart filled with a warmth that she had not felt since childhood. Then the angel showed Marina lakes glowing with an unearthly radiance. The water in them was transparent, like the morning air, each drop reflecting the grandeur of the heavens. Fish, shimmering with all the colors of the spectrum, swam calmly, not knowing fear or pain. The angel explained, "There is no suffering here. Everything you see was created by God in love and harmony." They approached a large garden where the light from the trees illuminated the fruits hanging from the branches and shining like precious stones. At that moment, Marina's body was filled with unprecedented energy, and her soul felt an unearthly joy that cannot be expressed in words. "What is further?" Marina asked, tremblingly looking at the golden gates rising ahead. "These are the gates leading to the throne of the Lord," the angel answered. "The angel said that you are not allowed to enter there yet. You need to return to Earth and tell people what you have seen. People are in dire need of hope, and the Earth is waiting for you. You have a task to complete, Marina." She felt a slight sadness, but she knew that her journey was not yet over. Marina wanted to stay in that place forever, but she understood that the mission was not yet complete. "Thank you," she said to the angel. "I will never forget what I saw." The angel touched her shoulder, and the next moment Marina's soul returned to the river. She saw her body being pulled out of the water. Marina was out of her body for at least 20 minutes. It is impossible to explain how she managed to survive after that. She had to recover for a long time, undergo rehabilitation after fractures. Marina says that she came back to tell people about boundless love. If we can accept it, it can change the whole worldview, acceptance, awareness, etc. That's what she said herself. Now, I firmly believe that our spiritual life is immortal. There is love and beauty in the world, even if they are hidden from the eyes. If we let them into our hearts, we will face any difficulties with gratitude, courage, and confidence that everything happens according to a certain plan. Also, after her return, Marina wrote a book called 7 Lessons of Heaven, in which she described in detail her experience and journey to heaven. And here is what a man named Don Piper, who has a unique experience of traveling beyond the usual existence, said about his stay beyond the mortal world. The events associated with his experience are astounding. He himself told about it this way: "I visited heaven and saw incredible and sometimes even shocking phenomena that no one else will tell you about. However, it was Marina Novikova who, by the will of God, was entrusted with an important mission: to tell the living about what awaits them in the place that is commonly called heaven. I assure you, everything there is completely different than you could imagine." This amazing story with an unusual ending took place on January 18th, 1989. On that fateful day that changed his destiny forever, he was driving home in his car. It was raining heavily outside. Driving across a bridge over a river, his car was suddenly hit by a truck driven by an inexperienced driver. The force of the impact was so great that the car instantly turned into a pile of scrap metal. Several drivers were injured in the accident. but none of them was in such a critical condition as Don Piper. 4 ambulance workers quickly arrived at the scene, examined the man, and unanimously declared him dead. With that conclusion in mind, they turned their attention to the other victims. Don Piper's body remained lying on the bridge, but a real miracle occurred. A priest he knew, who was returning from a Christian meeting along the same road, stopped by the lifeless body and began to pray. As he prayed, it seemed to him that the man who was declared dead was experiencing something incredible. The shock was incredible when it became clear that Don Piper was indeed showing signs of life. The doctors immediately began resuscitating him, but they had no idea that at that moment something even more amazing was happening to Don Piper himself. A flash of light enveloped him, and suddenly he was in the sky. According to him, there was a warm, shining light all around, which was not like ordinary artificial lighting. The thought immediately occurred to me that this light, emanating from God, filled everything with its grace. This light was both bright and soft, did not blind, but on the contrary, inspired admiration and peace. As I began to look closely at the rays and glitter, I could barely discern colors that I had never seen before. Everything around me was shimmering and shimmering, as if I was in a magical movie or in another dimension. Soon Don Piper noticed a magnificent gate in the distance, which was wide open, and a pleasant golden light was coming from it. He later said that for a moment he thought it was a dream, but everything seemed so real that believing in what was happening was the only way out. In front of him stood a beautiful gate made of only light. According to Don himself, at that moment he did not experience any needs and realized that he no longer needed any earthly goods. Then he saw several familiar people approaching him, those who had passed away before him and whom he had personally known. Moreover, not only were all these faces familiar to him, in fact, each of them had a special meaning in his life. The presence of these people did not surprise Marin Novikov at all, because they had truly affected his life. It was at that moment that he realized that old friends were next to him, as well as close relatives, including his father, grandfather, and grandmother. The latter's appearance left a special impression. It struck him because Piper had previously remembered her as weak and sick, and now she looked strong and radiant with health. In his own words, he described this moment as follows: "When they surrounded me from all sides, I felt their love and bliss. The faces of each of them shone with light and joy. He had never experienced such an amount of light energy from people. More and more people present came up to me and called me by name. I was amazed at how many souls came to greet me in heaven. As I walked towards those who were meeting me, I felt an incredible sense of awe. Each step pushed me towards new wonders. I approached the gates and felt absolutely no excitement. None of those who met me at the gates gave me anxiety. Marina Novikova said that at that moment he was amazed at how the light of the heavenly rays became brighter and more intense. The further he went, the stronger the radiance grew. This is how he recalled his sensations. The light embraced me, and it seemed as if I had been transferred to God's space. Although our earthly eyes usually get used to brightness or darkness, his heavenly vision easily captured the entire palette of light in the heavens. Each of his senses received an incredible boost. After this, Don Piper heard something truly unusual. The music was the most enchanting and pleasant he had ever heard. It resembled the rustling of birds' wings, and then he caught such a magical symphony of sounds that his soul froze like an autumn leaf. Don Piper said of it. Suddenly, I heard a wonderful angelic choir of heavenly beings praising the Creator. Although hundreds and even thousands of voices sang simultaneously, the sound was absolutely harmonious. Not the slightest chaos arose. Everything merged into a single stream, penetrating me through and through. This music lives in me to this day, despite the fact that more than 30 years have passed since my return from heaven. Then something extraordinary happened. Instead of simply hearing beautiful music and many voices praising God, he suddenly became part of the choir and sang for some time. His soul was filled with joy and liberation. Don Piper felt something special gathering around him, subtle but powerful. The next moment, he saw a multitude of angels filling the space around him, like light pouring out everywhere. Their faces radiated a soft, benevolent glow, and in their eyes there was incredible kindness and compassion that filled him with peace and warmth. Some angels posed with majestic wings that shimmered like iridescent silk, reflecting the heavenly reflections. Others seemed to dispense with wings, their images more ethereal, as if woven from light and air. Light himself. Regardless of their shape, all the angels were incredibly beautiful. Their beauty was beyond the earthly, incomprehensible and filled with grace. Marina felt that these angels were not just nearby, but were performing an important mission. It seemed that each of them was busy caring for the people around him. He felt their love and affection so strongly that he almost physically perceived their kindness. These beings appeared here to guide, comfort, and support everyone who was in this world of peace and light. Don Piper stopped in front of the heavenly gates because up close they made a huge impression on him. Here is how he himself described it. One thing surprised me. On earth, thinking about heaven, I expected to see gates of pearl, as it is written in the Bible. But they were not made of pearl. They looked mother of pearl, or rather, rainbow, shining and shimmering. Then Don Piper took a step forward to see what was behind the gates. There he saw a city with paved roads that seemed golden. Next to this golden city, there was a hill, and on its top, Piper noticed a tall and majestic figure radiating light. As he wrote about his perception, I decided that this was Jesus Christ. I wanted to climb uphill and thank for the opportunity to be here. Don Piper claimed that the paradise he visited was the most beautiful place imaginable. There were no tears, no pain, no suffering, only eternal peace and happiness. Don Piper then realized that if he continued moving, he would encounter something even more incredible. But the events did not end there. Piper caught the subtlest notes of aromas and smells that he had never smelled before, and this touched his soul deeply. It even seemed to him that thanks to these aromas, he was able to breathe deeply for the first time. Of course, it was not a simple physical breath, but rather a feeling that his soul had become lighter and freer. But soon, something strange and unexpected happened, which Don did not expect at all. As he was about to take a step forward and cross the threshold of another world that he was so eager to reach, the gates in front of him, previously shining with an iridescent light, as if woven from energy itself, suddenly began to gradually disappear. Don Piper looked at them with surprise and bewilderment, because just a moment ago they had beckoned him, promising peace and happiness. And now they were melting, like a mirage in the void. Trying to concentrate, he still saw how the gates were slipping away from him. It was so sudden and inexplicable that he lost his bearings and did not know what to do next. The change from beautiful, bright anticipation to confusion was complete. The gates mysteriously disappeared completely, as if they had never existed. Instead of a charming melody, Don Piper suddenly heard the prayers of the same priest who prayed for him on the bridge where the tragedy occurred. A man who was declared dead was unexpectedly brought back to life, and now his task was to tell the living what no one else would ever tell them, to share his unique experience and the knowledge that was given to him. The experiences I had in heaven were especially profound. The main thing is that I was brought back there as a kind of lesson for those who live without limits and constantly take risks, being on the edge. My experience tells them one thing. If you live your life honestly and righteously, you can find heaven. Believe me, there is a place for everyone there. My most important message from heaven is very simple, but at the same time incredibly powerful. It sounds like this: no one should rush to leave this world. After all, only on earth do we have a chance to live a life of dignity and deserve a place in heaven. Only here can we show kindness, show forgiveness, and give love to our loved ones, gain experience of mercy and compassion. It is everyday actions and choices that shape the life that will open the doors to paradise. I realized that paradise is not just a space of amazing beauty and complete peace. It is a world where true love reigns and immeasurable understanding fills everything around. This is the essence of harmony that each of us should strive for.